Okay. Can you see the screen? The slides?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
So I will continue with that topic about compassion and vegetarianism. So yesterday we stopped around here when we talk about describing the mental and physical activities arising from the great compassion. So bodhisattvas need to enrich compassion through real deeds and not merely contemplate about compassion. These practices that enrich compassion are called the acts of benefiting others, and the outline of such practices include generosity, kind speech, beneficial deeds, and cooperations, which are also known as the four all-embracing virtues. So yesterday, we go through the first one, the generosity. Today, we'll continue with the other three. Kind speech refers to verbal expressions that present affections and care. This could be speech that is pleasant to hear or scolding with stern words. All these speeches flow from great compassion, which allow others to feel our kindness and accept our suggestions willingly. Otherwise, if we talk to the poor and misfortune with scornful arrogance and mocking, those who have self-respect will refuse to accept our help. Or they may reluctantly accept the offers but hold resentment in their minds. For example, if we comment on people and things with good intentions and constructive suggestions, people easily accept our words and are willing to change and improve. Otherwise, though the feedback is factual, but if given unskillfully, the resentment of the receivers may even lead to misunderstanding and conflicts. Beneficial deeds can be described as social welfare and charitable deeds in modern language, which is to provide charitable services for the welfare of the general public and all human beings. Cooperation means to work side by side with all other partners through the good and bad times. Whether in a work or recreational situation, we should not make special arrangements for ourselves, but mainly an equal understanding with others. Such an approach is a way to influence others. Bodhisattvas need to pay attention to the methods applied when they carry out altruistic deeds. Kind speech, beneficial deeds, and cooperations are methods that make giving more effective and able to benefit all sentient beings. These four methods are the foundation of benefiting and bringing harmony to all sentient beings. And these are the actions and virtues that a leader should have. Bodhisattvas are the respected ones and our leaders. However, they are not attracted to the authority of a leader, but lead for the sake of benefiting sentient beings. Because bodhisattvas understand that only with such leadership positions can they help sentient beings and complete the goals of benefiting human beings. The acts of giving and so forth arising from the great compassion is crucial for bodhisattvas. The leadership of bodhisattvas are not limited to political governance. Bodhisattvas can be in any social class and field of career. A bodhisattva who has the aspiration and practice of great compassion always acts as a leader, just like Vimalakirti. who is regarded as the most honorable among all fields of career. Cultivation of great compassion. Compassion is a mental factor that all human beings have. However, it cannot be strengthened or separated from people's selfishness and narrow viewpoints. It is called love because it is mixed with selfishness, narrow-mindedness, and defilements. Asian people recite poem on the tiger. It said, "Among all animals, tigers are the fiercest. Who would dare to make a tiger angry? Yet, due to the affection between father and son, with each step, it watches over its young." So loving kindness is a quality that all sentient beings have, even the fierce tiger. Therefore, the cultivation of great compassion is focused on how to broaden the scope of compassion and purify it so that our compassion is not distorted by wrong views that are related to narrow reference points and selfishness. Therefore, the practice of great compassion is called cultivation. It is similar to cultivation of roots and sprouts so the plants can grow. According to the knowledge imparted by past sages, there are two main methods of cultivate great compassion. Contemplation on reciprocity of oneself and others. Explaining this is plain language. It means putting oneself in others' position and seeing oneself as others. Then what will you do? How would you deal with this matter? Everyone knows that there is no human who does not love themselves or do the best they can for themselves. I'm like this, and so are the others. So are all others. If we project the love for ourselves onto others, place ourselves in others' positions, and see things through others' viewpoints, then great compassion will naturally arise. The Dhammapada says, "All beings fear death, and all tremble under the threats of weapons. Treating others like oneself, neither kill nor harm." So this is similar to the forgiveness concept of Confucianism. Okay, so we have a look at the example. In one of the quotes in the Confucianism, well, it is said, the Jigong, a disciple of the Confucius, asked, "Is there any word that can guide a person throughout life?" And the master replied, "How about reciprocity? Never impose on others what you choose, what you would choose for yourself." So this concept of forgiveness is to treat others with benevolence, tolerance, understanding, and respect. However, it expands the love in oneself only. Although it can cultivate compassion, it cannot completely purify the quality of compassion. Okay. Equality to those we are fond of or not. Apart from loving ourselves, there are also some people we love and care for dearly. And these are no other than our parents, partners, children, and so on. Then there are some people towards whom our loving kindness or compassion is hard to arise. These people are no other people or no other than our enemies. For the sake of facilitating the cultivation of great compassion, we can try to gradually broaden our great compassion by starting from those we are close to, then to those we are acquainted with, and finally onto those we dislike. All humans, which means all sentient beings, can be divided into 3 groups. The ones we like, those we neither like or dislike, and those we dislike. Within these 3 groups, we can also divide them into several levels. Initially, we begin with our beloved family members and close friends. We observe their suffering and long to remove their suffering. When we see them without fortune and joy, we long to bring them fortune and joy. We should practice to the stage where we can see the joy and pain of our relatives as our own. Deeply imprint that feeling in our mind and always want to relieve them from suffering and help them gain happiness. Then we extend our practice to those we neither like or dislike. That is, those whom we do not hold gratitude or grievances. If we observe carefully, all beings have gratitude to us, especially since beginningless time. Who has not been our parents or teachers? We practice to have concern for the joy and pain of people that we neither like or dislike, and develop loving kindness and compassion towards them. Practice until same concern and treat of them is the same as our benefactors and family members. If we cultivate compassion towards these people that are neither fond of or hate, then we can extend our compassion towards enemies and those we dislike. Our enemies, whether we once thought they are or still treat them as our enemies, surely they have also shown us gratitude in the past. Why do we only focus on the hatred and forgot the gratitude and love we once had? In addition, when thinking about the reason why these people are our enemies, it is clear that the reason is because they are affected by wrong views. And it is not the case that sentient beings' innate nature possesses hatred towards us. These people are afflicted by the temptation of desire and propelled by their defilements, such that they are not in full control of themselves. When we see these people undertaking evil deeds and being ignorant and deluded, we should pity them, forgive them, and even try to help them. How can we have hatred towards these people merely because they have caused us some minor frictions? Furthermore, the definitions of friends or enemies are not is not fixed. For example, if we do not use righteous Dharma and loving kindness to inspire our relatives and loved ones, they can become our enemies as well. The mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, a lot of cases. In contrast, if we can apply the light of the righteous Dharma and deal with our enemies using sincere kindness and compassion, then we can transform the relationship from animosity into friendship. So why don't we have compassion towards our enemies, wish them and let them have happiness and relief from suffering? Through different kinds of observations and gradually extending compassion, it is possible to have compassion towards our enemies, which is the achievement of equality to those we fond of or not. When our compassion becomes universal and extended to all beings, this is the great compassion of the Buddha Dharma. So we must cultivate and broaden the scope of our compassion. The methods mentioned above are the most effective ways to cultivate compassion. So the experience of compassion. The aforementioned methods on developing great compassion are still mainly focused on the worldly affairs and not connected to transcendence. Some Shravakayana practitioners think that loving kindness and compassion merely arises based on contemplating worldly affairs and has no connection with the transcendence. However, this is not the true meaning of practicing great compassion in the Buddha Dharma. According to the Mahayana teachings, compassion and wisdom are not contradictory. In the defiled human consciousness, emotion and understanding are not separated as well. It can be said that compassion and wisdom embody each other, but are different aspects arising from the same consciousness. For example, the transformation of defilements to purity and the realization of wisdom is the expression of great compassion. This transformation is not just an emotionless realization of the truth, but is filled with genuine great compassion. Such Buddhist perfect accomplishments of great awakening is the attainment of ultimate great wisdom, which is also the highest achievement of great compassion. If there is no great compassion when practicing on the path to Buddhahood, even if we do not fall into the heretical paths, we will become a practitioner with abhimana, who is like the burnt sprouts and rotten seeds that will never grow. The literal meaning of the Sanskrit words abhimana is undue estimate of oneself. This refers to a type of arrogance that is specifically related to self-conceit about one's spiritual attainment and mystically such attainment to be ultimate. But in the fact that practitioners has not attained much at all, this result is that such practitioners see no need to further practice and learn the Buddha Dharma. So this will stop them learning. Compassion can be divided into three types. First, compassion that arises out of contemplation of sentient beings in suffering. This is the loving kindness of ordinary people. We do not understand the emptiness of both self and phenomena and think sentient beings have a true existence. So when we see sentient beings in joy and sorrow, compassion and sympathy will arise. Such loving kindness, whether it is benevolence or universal love, is still within cyclic existence. The second, compassion that arises out of contemplation on the reasons why sentient beings cannot stop the cycle of life and death. This is where one awakens to the truth that sentient beings are empty of fixed entity. However, due to their spiritual capacity being weak, such practitioners are unable to thoroughly understand that all dharmas are empty. This is the mind state of the two vehicle practitioners, the Shravakas and the Prataka Buddhas. Sentient beings are caught in the cycle of life and death. That is, the cyclical, the process or the cyclical process of delusion, karma, and suffering, which is called shackles of cause and effect. When the practitioners see the sentient beings are in such a process and continually cycling from one life to the next without end, then there arises compassion in them. The arising of this kind of compassion is still based on the sentient beings as objects of contemplation, because they have realized the truth that all sentient beings are empty. What they contemplate is that all sentient beings are the compound of 5 aggregates, and the 5 aggregates function in accordance with the principle of dependent co-arising. If one does not contemplate on any beings as an object, which is empty of fixed entity, then how can compassion arise? Third, compassion that arises out of contemplation on sentient beings, but without any attachment. This compassion is not like how the Sravakayana practitioners only realize sentient beings are empty and think all phenomena are real. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas fully realized that all phenomena are empty without an intrinsic entity. However, this realization of emptiness is not inclined to liberation without the appearance of dharmas. Instead, there are the manifestations of sentient beings with notional designations when Buddhas and Bodhisattvas fully realize the emptiness in all phenomena. Manifest beings arising from dependent co-arising are ultimately empty. There is no obstructions to sentient beings under the ultimate truth of emptiness. Wisdom and great compassion can also be described as wisdom is the realization of great compassion. Prajna is one Dharma, but has different names under different circumstances, where there is sincere empathy towards those in suffering. When the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas attain true awakening, if their realization only includes awakening to emptiness, where there is no appearance of sentient beings, how can they give rise to great compassion towards sentient beings? The only difference is that the first category of compassion is where one attaches to the perception of sentient beings as intrinsically existing. And the second category of compassion is where one no longer attaches to sentient beings as intrinsically existent, but still has attachments to other dharmas. The third kind of compassion is different from the other two. The first category of compassion is where one has attachments to the sentient beings and regard them as something that has intrinsic nature. The second category of compassion is where one no longer has attachment to sentient beings, nor regard them as something that has the intrinsic nature, but still has attachment to other dharmas. So only Mahayana's great compassion that arises out of contemplation of sentient beings without any attachments is gained and thoroughly penetrating the emptiness of sentient beings and all other dharmas. In the realization of this third category, only mirage-like sentient beings and other dharmas appear, all of which has no fixed entity. So what is trying to explain is that Buddha and Bodhisattvas have attained this level of who have attained this level of awakening. They will have perception of various dharmas like sentient beings and others, as they arise from the coming together of causes and conditions, but there is no erroneous attachments to these dharmas as a real and independently existing objects. So some people do not understand the profound meaning of Mahayana teachings and think the realization in Mahayana is merely to contemplate universal equality. That is the nature of dharmas. That is, that the focus is only on the rationality side of matters. They do not understand that realization as taught in Mahayana must have equal balance of great compassion and wisdom. Discussing the attainment of realization without great compassion will not show the unique virtues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Chinese Confucians have gained some inspiration from Buddhism. In their practice, they think they have realized the essence of benevolence and feel that they are filled with vitality. This is similar to the realization of great compassion in the Mahayana. However, Confucians cannot reflect inwards to realize the truth that the self is empty, and their minds are limited due to the perception of duality. In this respect, their realization of benevolence is not comparable to that of great compassion in Buddhism. Regarding insight meditations that enable practitioners to realize the truth of all dharmas, in the Agama Sutra, there are 4 titles that align well with the 4 Dharma seals. See the chart below. So nothingness, no desire, align with all conditioned phenomena are impermanence. And the immeasurableness, align with the all sensations are suffering. Emptiness, it aligns with all dharmas are without a self. Signlessness is equal to nirvana is tranquil. So it is clear that the meditation of immeasurableness enables practitioners to be free from attachments and has the same position as the meditation of emptiness, sightlessness, and nothingness. However, as Sravakayana Buddhism flourished, the meditation of immeasurableness somehow was forgotten. People do not understand immeasurable is limitless. When one contemplates externally carefully, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and impartiality can reach all beings everywhere without limits. All of these are called the 4 immeasurable concentrations. When they contemplate internally carefully, they know the sentient beings is also empty and should not be attached to, and there is no limitation on the self and others. Therefore, the meditation of immeasurableness is a kind of insight where one realizes that all sentient beings exist by way of mutual reliance in accordance with the principle of dependent co-arising, and are equal and without a distinct entity between each other. When one is able to realize the truth that oneself and others are equal and exist by way of mutual reliance, then wisdom and compassion become united, and there is no longer any differences between the two. The forgetting of this meditation of immeasurableness highlights the partiality towards self-liberations in the Sravakayana Buddhism. This root essence of Buddha Dharma is great compassion. Great compassion was neglected and concealed. This is only unfortunate matter in early Buddhism. Great compassion was reintroduced only with the rise of Mahayana Buddhism. This realization is the embodiment of the absolute truth and is also the accomplishment of the highest morality, the great compassion of selflessness and equality. To sum up, if realization attained by a disciple of the Buddha accords with the true spirit of the Buddha, then wisdom and compassion are united in a state of that realization. It is by no means the case where the state of realization is biased to a rational wisdom only. Only great compassion, the highest of morality, can lead us realize the truth and attain wisdom. Therefore, in the Dharma, there is a saying, the heart of the Buddha is great compassion. So looking at the great compassion of the Buddha. Great compassion is the unique merit of Buddha. Buddha saved all sentient beings because of having great compassion. So even though Buddha has left us for more than 2,000 years, Buddha and Buddha Dharma are always in our mind. We still respect Buddha and celebrate special days to remember him. Great compassion is the unique merit of the Buddha. It means bringing happiness to sentient beings and having sympathy for them and be willing to relieve them from suffering. The great compassion of Buddha is fair to people of all social classes. Some people ask, Buddha says that human beings are suffering deeply and are extremely pitiful. Does it mean that when you started learning Buddhism, you will not be pitiful? In fact, Buddhism says that we are pitiful because we are in the deep trouble and pain. How can we say that we are not pitiful? Frankly speaking, only those who realize the truth and escape from the cycle of life and death have great virtues and happiness. If sentient beings do not seek wisdom and often live with afflictions, they will continue live with sufferings and being pitiful. These sentient beings who live with sufferings of life and death are the ones Buddhas want to help and save. They are pitiful now, but if they diligently eliminate afflictions and seek wisdom, they can all obtain ultimate enlightenment and escape from all pains and sorrow in the world. Buddha sees and treats all sentient beings as equal, and he helps and protects all beings fairly. Great compassion is not a value that only Buddha, Bodhisattva, or sages can achieve. We also are not beings to be forever pitied. We should sincerely accept the compassionate protection and help from Buddha. And at the same time, we should have compassion towards other sentient beings and be willing to protect and save others too. Only by doing that can we have a chance to live in happiness without suffering and attain the same great compassion like the Buddha. The great compassion of Buddha is impartial towards all. Looking at our world, it is common for a mother to treat their children a bit differently. They have the favoritism towards her children. It is not easy for her to treat everyone the same because humans have bias. But Buddha regards all living beings, even those very wicked ones, as his beloved ones. For ordinary people, when we see old people, we will think of our parents. When we see people of our age, they remind us of our brothers and sisters. And when we see those who are younger, and we see them as our children. People like to be close to those we are fond of and stay away from those we do not like. So there are close and distant relationship between humans. Buddha breaks through these kinds of relationships and applies his profound wisdom and compassion to save all sentient beings. Even for those sentient beings who have committed serious crimes, Buddha still protects them, like giving protections to others. According to Buddha Dharma, Buddha and Bodhisattvas do not give up on any sentient beings and save them all with great compassion. Even for those beings have fallen into the hell and cannot save immediately, they still will be saved when they are reborn in different realms in the future. If they are reborn in the human and heavenly realms, Buddha and Bodhisattvas will incessantly help them until they finally attain Buddhahood. So this universal great compassion, the spirit of protecting and fairly treating all sentient beings, is beyond all benevolence. Buddha's great compassion is not only initiated by emotion, but through rationality. Parents love their children, but sometimes they will not be rational with matters concerning their children. They think their children are the best, so when other people give negative comments about their kids, they will feel unhappy. However, the great compassion of Buddha is filled with rationality. You may ask, well, if Buddha has the ability to save us with great compassion, why are we still living in pain and suffering? Buddha Dharma is profound and vast, but it may not be appreciable. Well, not all people can accept that because they are unkind. They don't have the good karmic links for the Dharma. So every sentient being has his karmic causes and results from the wholesome and unwholesome deeds he committed in the past. When the conditions meet, unwholesome karmic fruits will ripen. By then, even the compassion of Buddha cannot save them. Buddha wants us to do what is correct and stop committing unwholesome deeds. But sentient beings love to do the opposite. They do not believe in the law of causes and effects. So how can Buddha help them with his great compassion? Under the law of causes and effects, Buddha can help and protect us if we commit different kinds of wholesome deeds. If we have completed a wholesome deed, Buddha will save us with righteous actions under the law of causes and effects, even if there is just a little possibility to do so. On the contrary, although Buddha has mighty virtue and great compassion that are vast and boundless, Buddha cannot save us if we do not have faith in him or have committed something evil. Buddha has great compassion for all sentient beings, not because these sentient beings believe or have faith in him. This is the important principle that we must know. If any sentient beings commit wholesome deeds, they will naturally get good karmic fruits. Even for those humans that do not believe or practice Buddha Dharma, if their kindness grows, Buddha will still care and can help them and he can help them if their karmic results are good because of their actions. So they will naturally have a connections with the triple gem and walk on the Bodhi path in the future. So everything is still under the law of causes and conditions. Otherwise, the principle will be obliterated. Buddha's great compassions and vows are strong, but the power of karma is even greater. So Buddha's compassion and inspiration are rational. Many people do not have the correct view on Buddha Dharma. So when they get sick and cannot stand the pain, they will regard practicing Buddha Dharma are useless. This shows they do not fully understand the real meaning of Buddha Dharma. Just like those businessmen who use illegal methods to scam money, but in the end, their plan failed and they broke the law. So how could Buddha save them? Buddha's great compassion is a rational expression. Therefore, Buddha does not change or go against the law of causes and effects when he saves sentient beings. Buddha integrates emotion and reasoning without leaning to either side and reach the ultimate balance of great compassion and wisdom. This is the unique and noble quality of Buddha's great compassion. For example, in treating of disease, people tend only to treat the superficial, the obvious symptoms, like using the painkillers can relieve a patient's headache. Maybe that can make us feel better for a short time. However, that cannot eliminate the disease because they are not treating the source of the illness. In general, there are two methods to relieve the sufferings of human beings in this world. The first method is a result considering ease and convenience. For example, and convenience. For example, giving food and clothing to the poor that they need these supplies. This is a method that can quickly help them to relieve their sufferings in short term. The second method is to investigate the root cause of poverty. If someone is poor because of lack of livelihood skills, then we should teach them skills like farming and growing crops. If people are poor because of annual floods in their living area, we can help them with solving this problem, clean where is stuck, the soils or the mud stuck, build the dams or so on. Then they will not suffer from the floods and poverty in long runs. Buddhism is also like that. Buddha Dharma stresses to provide others help, but the essence is focused on the efforts of the individual. One must put an effort to solve one's problem and suffering. Therefore, a real Buddha Dharma practitioner should practice all the time and can achieve the ultimate liberation free from suffering. If we do not work hard and follow the Dharma teachings, but only want to save by the Buddha and Bodhisattvas, then we are only dreaming because we cannot be saved and continue to suffer forever without an end. People in the world are shallow and often can see the things in front of them, but they seldom look deeper. To illustrate my point, I'm going to tell you a story. Once upon a time, someone was giving a party. The guests walked into the host's kitchen and saw the chimney leaning against the eaves. He expressed his concern to the host. The chimney is too close to the eaves, and it is easy to catch fire. It is better to make it curved. At that time, the owner did not take the guest's words. Unfortunately, after a while, a fire really broke out and burned part of the property. At this time, the owner was sad that his property has been burned, and on the other hand, he was grateful to many people who came to put out the fire. But he forgot the guests who first advised him to bend the chimney into the curved shape. Some Buddhist believers know that they should believe in Buddha and they can ask for the help from Buddha, but they ignore the Buddha's fundamental concern and teachings that they need to practice it faithfully. That is like the ignorant owner in the story who ignores the words of the guest. Buddhists should follow the Buddha Dharma and wholeheartedly practice it. Then they shall have the protection from the Buddha and we can resolve our difficulties satisfactorily. If we commit unwholesome deeds and are not willingly to practice according to Buddha Dharma, although Buddha has great compassion and vows to save all sentient beings, Buddha cannot save us because of our own karma. So if we practice according to the teachings of the Buddha, it is the same as we have accepted the protection of the Buddha. Bodhisattvas are sentient beings that seek enlightenment and embrace the principle of compassion to liberate others from suffering. In Buddhist practice, suffering is part of the cycle of rebirth, and the realm you are reborn in, or reborn is the cause and effect relationship with your actions in previous lives. There are many levels of sentient beings need to attain before they achieve enlightenment and become a Buddha. The Bodhisattva level is the last step before Buddhahood. All Bodhisattvas practice great compassion, but the most popular Bodhisattva is in Asia is Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Traditionally, China was very patriarchal society, a system reinforced by Confucian's principles, which put pressure on women to obey their husbands and give birth to sons instead of daughters. As a result, women were generally the ones asking for Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva's help in order to achieve these goals. In addition, it was thought that a woman must commit to one man for her whole life, even after his death. Therefore, it seems more appropriate for a woman to worship a deity in female form. In this way, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattvas starts to take on more feminine qualities, such as kindness and elegance, and in female form, she is seen as more accessible to women. Avalokiteshvara is interpreted in many ways. The one who hears the cries of the world, the Lord who looks down, the Lord who looks in every direction. Let us look at the great compassion repentance. In the great compassion Dharani, or the great compassion mantra, the Dabeizo Sutra status. The sutras discourses for all bhikkhus, bhikkhunis, upasaka, upasika, boys or girls who wishes to hold and recite the Dharani, he or she must be kind and compassionate to all sentient beings. Let us start by making the following vows. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to know all Dharma quickly. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to obtain the eye of wisdom soon. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to emancipate all sentient beings quickly. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to obtain the expedient means soon. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to sail the boats of prajna quickly. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to cross the seas of suffering soon. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to achieve the full practice of precepts and dhyana quickly. Let us take refuge in the great compassionate Avalokiteshvara. I pledge to reach the summit of nirvana soon. Let us take refuge in the most compassionate Avalokitesvara. I pledge to dwell in the home of the unconditioned. Let us take refuge in the most compassionate Avalokitesvara. I pledge to acquire the Dharma Kaya soon. If I encounter a mountain of knives, the mountains shall break. If I encounter boiling liquid, the liquid shall dry up. If I encounter hell, the hell shall vanish. If I encounter hungry ghost, the ghost shall become full. If I encounter the Asuras, their hatred shall subside. If I encounter animals, they shall attain great wisdom. I take refuge in I take refuge in the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattvas. I take refuge in the Amitabha Buddha. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattvas addressed the Buddha, saying, "The world-honored one, if sentient beings who recite and uphold the great compassion mantra descend into the three lower realms, I vow not to achieve proper awakening. If those who recite and uphold the great compassion mantra are not reborn in any Buddha land, I vow not to achieve proper awakening. If those who recite and uphold the great compassion mantra do not attain the meditation of immeasurableness and eloquences, I vow not to achieve proper awakening. If those who recite and uphold the great compassion mantra do not realize the fulfillment of their wishes in these present lifetimes, then this is not the great compassion mantra." So after saying these words, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva joined his palms and stood up straight before the assembly. The Bodhisattva gave rise to the mind of great compassion towards all sentient beings and carried a smile on his face. He then began to discourse the spiritual wondrous sections and verses of the great mantra of the vast, perfected, unhindered minds of the great compassion. So the mantra consists of 84 phrases. It is very popular in the Chinese culture, and it is widely recited amongst devotees. Some of the benefits often associated with the chanting of the great compassion mantra are rebirth in the higher realms, gain the opportunity to meet beneficial acquaintances, possess competent sense organs, have bountiful food and money, obtain great respects from others, and gain opportunities to learn Buddhist teachings. Moreover, those who recite this mantra will not suffer death of starvation, disease, poison, food, or fire. When people chant this mantra, they related the deities will come to provide their support. So the great compassion mantra contains the power of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattvas to rescue sentient beings. The mantra contains the power to remove all horrors and suffering and achieve perfection. Furthermore, it can also help our followers listen to the Dharma, the teaching of the Buddha, enhance their wisdom, and guide the dead towards a rebirth in the Pure Land. Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva is the hearer of the cries of the world, and one of the characteristics of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva is that she manifests herself according to circumstances. So she always presents herself in a form that appropriate to what's going on. She can appear as a homeless person or in a bar throughout the nation, and she will appear as a intoxicated individual, or she can appear as a motorist on the highway, or as a fireman or a physician. She can always respond in accord with the circumstances in a form appropriate to the circumstances. So every time when there's a someone that really need help, like a stranded vehicle on the side of the roads, a motorist stops to help, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva has manifested herself. Those characteristics of wisdom and compassion are the characteristics of all beings and all Buddha. We all have the potential. It is just a matter of actually applying it. We show it by realizing that there's no separation between we, ourselves, and others. Do not think of the Bodhisattva as a being separated from oneself. When we see and hear suffering of others and respond to that suffering, we are like the head and the arms of a Bodhisattva. If we can have equanimity towards all beings, find peace within ourselves, learn to treat others with respect and humility, and to bring harmony to families and society, sharing what we have, even our merits with all sentient beings. This means we let go of our own attachments. So the more we help others and give compassion to others, the more we are practicing to let go of self-ego, and we will grasp on fewer objects. This will be very helpful in our practices on the path to Buddhahood. So the importance of compassion and wisdom to the human world. Compassion is caring for all sentient beings equally. True compassion must be given out equally. For any sentient beings, no matter how close or distant they are to you, as long as they need help, you should help all sentient beings according to what is appropriate for their needs at the time in that situation. If your compassion towards others is not fair and equal, it may bring the feelings of injustice to the other party. In other words, this will make the person being helped feel injustice or even have hostility towards you. For example, if the care of parents for the children is not equal, it will cause jealousy among the children. They will not be able to love each other. And at the same time, they will be dissatisfied with their parents. This happened a lot at school too. Those students always got rewards and praise from the teachers will be isolated and bullied by others because of jealousy. So how the teachers treat the students is very important. If there is no equality, you will bring trouble to yourself and others. I heard of a story in the past. There was a Buddhist nun who gave gifts to her disciples. In the beginning, each believer got 2 books, but later believers only got 1. And the last group of the believers were not given any. So those who did not get the book and those who only got 1 book thought the venerables is not fair and practice favoritism. So this group of people become unfriendly to those who get 2 books, and those who get 2 books are also unhappy and blame the Buddhist nun after they have been treated badly by the others in the temple. So when we distribute gifts in the temple, we got to be very careful. People do get angry if they do not get what they like. So usually what we can do is to provide good gifts and give some extras. For example, if 80 people are joining the activities, before we give out the gifts, we should prepare 110. Why do we have to have extras? We need to save some for the lay devotees that are still busy and have not gotten it. And usually some will just appear at the very end. And also some people will say, I don't like what I get. Can I exchange for another one? Or can I get another one with different color? That is fine. So as to let people get into the Dharma gates, we have to satisfy them and let them feel happy. Then they will come more often and they will improve themselves, and certainly in the years to come. Okay, I think the time is about it. I'll continue the talk tomorrow. Yeah. Okay.